So whenever fall rolls around, it's always so hard to resist the temptation to pick up the latest, greatest, coziest, comfiest, moodiest fall palettes that are out there, especially when so many brands are cranking them out. I mean, let's be honest, they're cranking just about every product out at warp speed right now. But for this video, we're just gonna stick to eyeshadow palettes, and let's be real, I don't need another eyeshadow palette or anything. Really. So I'm gonna shop my stash for some of the best fall eyeshadow palettes I can find that I already own, and maybe, honestly, you probably do too. Okay, let's just easy does it. Oh God. It is going to take all night to get up from this spot. Okay, here we are, in front of the makeup collection, specifically in front of the drawers with the eyeshadow palettes. Well, in theory, if this were organized well, there would just be eyeshadow palettes. But first, let's start some ground rules. Let's talk about what we're looking for in an eyeshadow palette. Number one, I'm looking for things that I typically look for in an eyeshadow palette. A broad range of textures, a wide variety of tones. I like good contrast, like really deep shades, really light shades, and not a lot of repeat shades. That's just my baseline for like a good palette. When it comes to fall eyeshadow palettes, I'm looking for gem tones. And you might say, that's so tired. Gem tones, groundbreaking. I don't care. I love gem tones, and fall is the time to wear them. Also, berries. For me personally, one of the #1 things I will see in like a new fall release, like I think Too Faced just came out with a fall, is it pumpkin spice or cinnamon roll? One of those. And there's a berry in that palette that I would buy solely for that one shade. And I need to stop that habit. So we're looking for some berries. And last up, I'm looking for a gold texture, like a glitter or a multi-shifty shade, multi-chrome sort of situation. I feel like that's a tall order to ask for in a palette, so we might have to pull some singles, but at this point, I think I'm ready to start the hunt. Let's go. Alrighty, first drawer, and right off the bat, we have some good options. Look at this. Could you ask for more gold, more texture? I think not. Let's do it. And then right underneath it, okay, look at this deep matte emerald shade with the bronzes. Okay, maybe both of these. Okay, that's gorgeous. Again, we have kind of berry burgundy, gold, check. This new palette from Wet n Wild, you know, it could have some fall, if I can get it open, some fall vibes to it with the greens, the golds, even this plummy shade, but these blues and just the general neutrals aren't striking me as like super fall-y. These, I mean, I'm not going to include these because they're gorgeous, but like, honestly, the Lorac Noir, yes, absolutely. But I've talked this up so much that I feel like if you guys hear about it one more time, you're going to click out of the video, but just know, yes, absolutely. That's a face palette, not even supposed to be in here. Ooh, now this is a cute little guy, the Cocoa Blend from Zoeva. I mean, berry, bronze. Okay. Oh, these two from Believe Beauty. We got some berries in here, but this one feels more fall to me. Okay, we have 2 more drawers to get through. Let's put this mess away and go into the next one. Is the Jackie Aina palette still available? Because this is one of my favorite palettes of all time for the mixture of colors and textures, the berries, the purples. If this is still available, it's like the top of the fall list. Wow. Okay, honestly, I picked this up thinking, oh, you know, I just would not really wear this. It lacks contrast, it's very monochromatic, but then I realized it's all berry, so to the extent that you just are missing that berry color, this is an incredible palette to pick up because you get to add a somewhat matte satin berry, a highly metallic berry, a nude berry, like, okay. Oh my gosh, let's end with this one. This was my last, speaking of how Too Faced makes these amazing fall palettes, this is probably the last palette that I actually bought from Too Faced. And when you talk about fall palettes, this, absolutely. Okay, let's see what we pulled. Okay, here we are. 10 eyeshadow palettes I chose, plus some honorable mentions, and then last, some palettes that I'm getting rid of. Let's get into it. Let's get into the honorable mentions first, because they are great palettes. Don't be offended that these didn't make the top 10 list. They're great, but I think I have some alternatives that offer a little bit of something more that I'm actually after. So, the 2 Wet n Wild palettes, the 2 first palettes that I saw, I'm actually not including in my top 10 because while they are great, the all gold one, while beautiful, is just gold. I wanted a palette that had gold and then something. So amazing, but doesn't really check my diversity of shades box. The other one, again, no name, but this one has that deep matte green, but all the other shades I think are pretty predictable for a neutrals palette. The Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette, an adorable little pocket-sized palette. In fact, I mentioned this in a video all about the best pocket-sized palettes out there, but the berry is doing all the work in here for me. The rest are pretty standard neutrals, and there's nothing otherwise extra super special and folly about it. Same can be said for this Revlon Slight Flex Prismatic eyeshadow palette. It's beautiful, but for the fact that I just had a shadow fall out on me. But basically this, let me just press this so it stays in. This turquoise shade is really stealing the show. This duochrome shade, which is like a taupe slash teal, is coming in a close second, but overall, I'm just feeling sort of like, meh about it. The Dark Edit from Viziart. I have actually mentioned this, I'm sure, in a fall palette video before, which is literally the only reason why I'm not including it here. I have a different palette that is actually a drugstore palette that I mentioned in my top 10 as a kind of an alternative to this. But I feel like I've given this palette a lot of love. It is very characteristically fall to me, and so I'd rather focus on something that's a little bit older, a little bit more drugstore. But if you're a Viziart fan, this is amazing. Okay, and last up, this one hurt to put in the honorable mention. It is the Sydney Grace Autumn's Rain palette, and this is only because it's not available anymore. I think once they ran out of the actual palettes, they started putting the singles in bundles, and now not even that is available on the Sydney Grace website. And so, yeah, I mean, it says it all in the name, right? You have your berries, your gold, it's perfect. It is a perfect palette for the fall, but it's not available anymore. But don't worry, I do have a Sydney Grace alternative that I'm pretty excited to talk about in my top 10. Speaking of, let's get on to those. First, let's talk about that drugstore alternative for the Viziart Dark Edit palette. It is the e.l.f. Mad for Matte eyeshadow palette in the collection Jewel Pop. This is actually a combination of the Viziart Dark Edit palette and the Viziart Deep or Dark Matte palette that they have. So not only are you getting those deep fall gem tones, but they're also entirely matte, which I know goes against my #1 rule that I was looking for a lot of diverse textures in a palette. I violated that rule more than once in some of these palettes that I selected, but I just had to go with my gut, you know what I mean? Next up, I mentioned when I was going through my drawers, and I had to put it in the top 10 because it turns out it's on sale and I'm worried it's going away for forever. It's the Anastasia Beverly Hills Jackie Aina collaboration palette. Said it before earlier in the video, I'll say it again. This is one of the best eyeshadow palettes, in my opinion, in the history of eyeshadow palettes. Not just for fall, but ever. And the color palette just makes it pretty exceptional for fall. It ticks all of those boxes. The gold, the purple, the berry, the duochromatic like blue-brown shade over there, plus all of your classic neutral shades. It's amazing, and it might be going away sometime soon, so get it while you can. Also on sale is the Catrice Cosmetics Insta Bay palette. This I think I got probably last fall, and probably because, once again, it's that mixture of neutrals. You have a bright pop of metallic gold and a coppery berry shade down there. I mean, this is why I cannot let myself shop for every season, because chances are I am always attracted to the same things in a palette, and I've already bought some color combination like this once before. Okay, the Sydney Grace alternative that I have to the Autumn's Rain palette is the Temptalia collaboration, but specifically the Radiant Reflection palette that when I got this, and I did a review of this, talked about the rich gem tones in it. So it was kind of like, of course this is the natural, not just alternative to Autumn's Rain, but fall palette from Sydney Grace, because look at these rich gold, berry, purple. You even get your deep emerald greens down here. It's such a beautiful palette. Speaking of greens, if you want something a little bit more compact that really speaks to greens and golds, the Milani Most Wanted eyeshadow palette is a great one. That deep matte emerald right here is a great contrast to the lighter greens, this more like almost antique goldy green, and then the bronze gold over here. This is just a really solid like rich fall greens kind of eyeshadow palette. And then I have a palette that once again violated the first rule that I set out for looking for my fall palette, the Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. But I just love the mixture of not just shades in here, but the fact that they are these bold metallic finishes. Yes, there are some classic matte crease shades, so you don't just have to have an entirely metallic look. But aside from those, this covers literally every single fall color I ask for. But with the emerald, the bronze, the gold, I guess this is a fuchsia and not more of a berry, but I feel like fuchsia has also been included in a lot of these seasonal fall / maybe holiday palettes. And this has it all. And this little guy from Believe Beauty is another great essentials palette that isn't too colorful. If you're not super comfortable with a bold purple or a bold green, these are like blackened metallic versions of those gem tones. A little bit more subdued, I think, but still very high shine and very dark and moody fall, if you ask me. The Linda Hallberg Enchanted Mysteries quad is one that just doesn't get enough love, I don't think. And no, it didn't totally check off all of my boxes. Again, we're lacking texture here. All of these are like shimmery / metallic / multi-chrome, but they're unique shades and they do say fall to me. You have a duochrome emerald and purple, this duochrome white with a pinky purple shift to it, the metallic bronze down here, and then the black, which it's like a metallic / satin black that acts as a beautiful worn alone, but also a gorgeous base to those multi-chromatic shades to really make those shifty colors in them pop. Then I picked out a Makeup by Mario palette, and this, I might have a problem with metallics this fall. I think I'm very into metallics this fall because this is the Master Metallics palette. And again, berries, purples, greens, golds, yes, they're all metallic, but I do think that metals and the rich texture that comes with the metal is just so perfect for fall. You got rich colors, rich textures, they all just meld together to just, they say fall. Then, before we move on to the palettes that I am throwing away, the Dominique Cosmetics Celestial Storm palette, another really underrated one, and I have to imagine it is because there are such intensely bold shades in here. The only palette I have picked out, by the way, that includes these rich turquoisey shades. We had greens before, we had bold blues in some other palettes, and these are true turquoises mixed with the purples and the berries and even some multi-chromatic shades in here as well. Like this purple here in the corner is like a hot fuchsia mixed with a soft blue, and then down here this is like a nude with some peachy pink shifty shimmers in it, and then your classic, you know, coppers that are great for fall here as well. This is maybe one of the most underrated palettes from Dominique Cosmetics. Oh, and I just looked on Sephora and it is also on sale right now, like literally half price, so get it while you can, I guess. Okay, now let's talk about the duds. First up is this quad from LA Girl. It's the Ilux Mesmerizing quad in Eternalize. This I haven't even opened, so I'm gonna give this to somebody else that will dig this color palette more than I do. It's very monochrome. There's not enough contrast for me. I need this dark, deeper tone to be deeper, and I need some like higher contrast in the finishes. Like this shimmery shade needs to be a metallic shade for me, like a high shine metallic for this to really work for me. The reason it's not opened is because it hasn't compelled me to reach for it. So it's been long enough, it's gotta go. Next up is from e.l.f. This is the Saturday Sunsets 5-pan eyeshadow palette, and again, just not enough contrast for me. There are some shimmery shades in here. They're not super high shine shimmers, they're just kind of ho-hum shimmers in my opinion. I think it's gonna be great for someone who likes a more subdued eyeshadow look, but I need more drama. And last up is the original e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette. This is all mattes, it is all flesh tones, I just have so many of these shades, obviously not all collected together in one palette like this, but all of these shades sprinkled throughout literally every single palette that I have in my collection, and so I will never and haven't been reaching for this as kind of a go-to all-in-one sort of palette, because this just isn't the look that I tend to wear. I like textures, I like colors, and if I'm really jonesing for an all-matte neutral sort of look, again, there are plenty of other places I can reach in my collection to scratch that itch. Now, one fall palette, or palette that came out kind of in time for fall this year that I didn't mention in this video, is the Nudestix Modern Romantics palette. This I just talked about in an Ulta 21 Days of Beauty haul, and I should love this palette, but I don't. So if you want to see why that is, be sure and go check out that video right here. Let me know about your favorite fall palettes. Have you been diving into your collection, shopping your stash, or are you getting some of those that are new in stores right now? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.